I'm going to go ahead and start the work session. This is keeping with the previous model where we're going to do work sessions from 6 to 7, and then the actual board meeting is going to be from 7 to 8. I will add that tonight's meeting, we're doing a test run right now. It is being live streamed. We're trying to work some kinks out, but thanks to the public for commenting, and we got this work. In regards to the work session, Art, did you want to start with the budget stuff, or do you want to go into?
Go right into your old business. Yeah.
Okay. All right. First item of old business is item 1, addition of a provision for students at the primary school and the elementary school to carry smartwatches. So, CJ, do you want to start us off, or do we want to have some discussion on that, or?
I mean, everybody's probably heard it before. I just feel, along with middle school and high school, should not have their electronic devices on. The primary school and the elementary school should be able to have watches in their backpack off. So if they are walking home, or if they're on the buses, or if something happens, they have a means of communication with their parents or family or whatever. But I feel all electronic devices should be off during school hours anyway, all through senior year.
So how do you, for electronic devices, I think we should need to clarify, this is just smartwatches. This is not cell. I think that's an important thing to consider.
For elementary and
and middle, and primary and elementary school, yes. Are there any concerns about any kind of devices on these watches, or Wi-Fi access or things like that?
So they have the same access on this Chromebook that you get. Watch. I mean, fuzzy, not as much. I mean, I have the same amount of concern as I have on this, and the same thing as middle schools having phones. They should not be out. That makes it easier. We've had high schoolers take pictures of people in bathrooms. We still got cell phones there. I mean, we can't let one bad apple say, okay, everything's gone, but we need to regulate it and make sure that it's done the right way and people don't have it out. Right now, I have a bunch of parents saying they're bringing them in the schools anyway. We don't have a problem with this. I don't know where all of a sudden it's going to be.
The elementary school.
Yeah.
And primary.
Primary as well.
Mm-hmm. And so they shouldn't be out. If they're out, we have to escalate, just like any other discipline we have with kids who do something that they shouldn't do. I mean, teachers are ready to handle that. They handle it every day. I don't think this is going to turn into them spending 4 hours a day on trying to get people with watches off and then put away. I think kids pretty much listen to the teachers, and if parents and teachers say keep it away, then they can't keep it away. We have to let parents know, just like if your kid can't stay quiet or can't stay in their seat or can't move around, you have to get the parents involved and say, hey, this is our rule. We have to go by it.
So if we go the route of allowing smartwatches, are we going to have to develop a policy that sort of spells out what those expectations are, or how do you foresee that, CJ?
What's the definition of a smartwatch too? I have a kid who has a watch that doesn't connect to the internet but has a game on it. Is that a smartwatch? I mean, well, what do we decide?
I don't know.
And that's why I say watches, if it can connect to outside resources, or if it has games, if it's a distraction, it needs to be in the backpack. If we want to go with all watches in primary and elementary school, then I'm okay with that too. That's what y'all feel is needed to be able to have that level of security for kids who walk home. Okay, then no watches, but smartwatch is a digital watch, a smartwatch nowadays, because it can digitally tell you the clock. I mean, who defines these things anymore? I mean, back when I was in high school, if you had a pager, you're getting suspended because even if my mom got it for me to be able to page me at any time to get home, things have changed. People evolved. We have to evolve with the times. I mean, it's here for a reason, and it's good to be able to have your kids be able to get a hold of you. Unfortunately, if there's a shooting, or if school gets out early and they get dropped off at your house when you're not home, which has happened here too, if they get on the wrong bus and they don't know where they're at, that's happened here multiple times too with multiple kids. I mean, times are here. Unfortunately, there's bad people all around, and I would like kids to have an ability to get a hold of their parents if they need to.
So according to the definition of a smartwatch from Oxford, a mobile device with a touchscreen display designed to be worn on the wrist.
Okay. It's perfect. They have already defined it.
So I guess we would have to, I mean,
So Newport News unfortunately had a very bad incident happen there.
absolutely.
And they jumped on and said they all can wear it. Here you go, every kid bring it now. I mean, are we gonna wait for a bad incident for us to all say, hey, let's do it? Or are we just gonna say, we see this happen at a sister place right here and they're handling it, and it's still okay that they're doing it, and it's the exact same thing that I'm saying is the thing that's going on in Newport News schools right now. I don't see a difference, other than they saw something bad happen and now they're saying, hey, let's make sure the kids have it. I mean, we can wait, but I don't feel waiting is the right thing, in my opinion.
So, just looking, I mean, if everybody hasn't seen it, there's a whole bunch of acceptable use policies for the various divisions. It was in some of our previous data, I believe, documentation as well. Obviously, there's a wide range of the way that these policies are written, you know, where they land as far as grade level and so forth and so on. But I think, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, but when you read York County's kind of outlines, you know, really more, I'm going to say, acceptable use and or, you know, kind of getting guidelines for people on how and why you should use things in various situations. And then it really, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what view you want to look at, you know, puts the onus on the teachers to kind of, you know, the teachers are allowed to give the permission is to use them, and otherwise they shouldn't be used. So I just note that because, you know, I think York County kind of really closely aligns with us in a lot of cases, and I think, you know, as you go through all the various areas, you know, I think there's only one in here that expressly prohibits it for a primary.
I think Chesapeake was,
In Hampton. But I mean, I have concerns about the use of devices inappropriately by whomever. I don't care if it's primary all the way through, even adults, right? But I do have, you know, a lot of, you know, empathy and agreement with, you know, with CJ from the standpoint of concerns related to emergency type of scenarios and stuff like that, not only inside of our school, but once the kids turn around and leave the school. So I just worry that are we hitting a slippery slope, and to what degree do we deal with that slippery?
I'm in agreement with CJ on some things about this, you know, talking. You know, I have an air tag on my car keys. It's because I can't ever find my car keys. And they had a device with their child who fell asleep on the bus, and it was a substitute bus driver, and watching their child go past the house, turn around, head back down. And so she jumped in her car because she thought, oh, she must have forgotten her backpack. No, she was back of the bus. You know, kids that get dropped off at the wrong bus stop, that's a concern. Kids walking home, you know, at the elementary school, they're riding their bikes and walking. My biggest concern, I have two concerns, and one is disruption in the classroom for the teachers. And any devices that have the ability to take pictures and record. Biggest concerns, but I think those could be addressed if we had the properly formulated policy.
I think that is the proposal, as well as I understand it, is not to have them on. I mean, that, again, acknowledging very difficult to enforce on the bus. I mean, I acknowledge that. However, to your point, I mean, many things are difficult to enforce in that environment, and that's the policy, that's the rules. We make it very clear and share with the parents as well that the expectation on this is that they are to be off in the backpack on school property, including buses. I mean, I agree. I mean, if I had a fifth grader that was coming home from school, I would like to know that if I was caught up in traffic on my way home, the ability to be able to get in touch with her would be pretty valuable. And we don't have a landline, and my children don't have cell phones, you know, so I can see the scenario where there would be a definite need, not to mention safety concerns that never want to consider, but is an unfortunate reality.
One thing, the techs have asked that we talk into the microphones. They're having a hard time picking up a couple of you.
Sorry.
So when the power went out at the schools and we had to close early, unfortunately, all got messaged out. My kids got dropped off at my house without me there. Luckily, I had a ring, so I could talk through the ring to tell them how to get into the house.
It was a
Maybe else might not have that, but I had to do that to be all open. I couldn't get home. I didn't know they were off. I was at work. I didn't get the message that they were coming home. They got put on the bus and you're coming home too. And then it was me just saying, hey, you can go get a key from here. It's hidden here. It's here, there. Use your code. Get into the house and I'll be home shortly.
So it was a safety issue.
I mean, 100%. If I didn't have the ring, what would they have done? Been sitting out on the front porch? Elementary school, the bus drivers don't sit there and wait to watch them get in the house because there's 4 houses. They have to walk all the way back this way for them to get back into the house. It's not like they're getting dropped off right at the house. They get dropped off 4 houses up to walk around and run backwards to the house.
Yeah, on MES, they just drop off on MES and then the kids just,
So, I mean, it's happened already a couple of times here. I don't know how much times we want it to happen before we make a decision. And sorry if I went in the mic.
I think we need to handle this in 2 parts. You know, obviously, what we're talking about right now is smart watch usage. But I also think there's probably a broader, just acceptable use policy adjustment that needs to happen as well. And I don't think we need to get into that today.
No.
But just for everybody's benefit, and then especially for all the parents' benefit and the teachers as well, is just to understand that we probably need 2 adjustments here.
And I'm okay with just agreeing that we're going to generate a policy to address cell phones, period, in all schools and watches in elementary and primary. I don't want to rush this and just say, hey, everybody open the flood doors on everything. And we've gone this long. I think we're smart enough to be able to make a policy that works for everybody. We get teachers' input if they want to input too, and parents to get this going. We're halfway through the year. I'd like it done sooner than later, but I don't want to rush into it. And I'll let Artie try figuring out what's a good time and how to write it. I mean, he's an expert at that.
What I would just recommend, what we have on the table is a simple adjustment that we can institute quickly. Doesn't really affect as Mr. Bose brought up, the acceptable use policy. It doesn't conflict with that. And it would be just to, as I understand the proposal, and we wrote it in that an adjustment, and it was a few meetings back, and there should have been a strike and bold in our code of conduct, which just says instead of them being prohibited, they're allowed to be in a book bag, powered off, and only used before and after school hours. That's a simple thing. It doesn't require any change really on our part, and that was as we understood the proposal, and that's really what's on the table for tonight. Y'all can, vote that up or down, and we can toggle to that quickly. I agree that there is room for a deeper conversation about the use of electronic devices in schools. It's going on all over the country. There's a bill in the General Assembly right now to encourage school boards to consider banning electronic devices. But there's layers of this, again, for another time, and a lot of deep conversations about enforceability and all of those pieces. But if what's on the table tonight is what we had in the plan, it's a simple adjustment. We already have it written, ready to go. And if you vote that in, it's, as I understand it, it is to allow those devices in wrist devices to be used before and after school and possessed in a book bag, powered off.
yeah, my biggest concern is obviously the safety, and I think that this is a strong safety item. I do worry about any kind of internet safety, especially with cell phones with Wi-Fi access, but we're not talking about, and that's why I said that, we're just talking smartwatches here. I do worry about disruption in the class happens, but that's where we need to have a policy. You can show to parents, and parents who are providing these items to their kids can say, hey, look, this is the rules. And we all know that it's there are going to be accidents and things like that that happen, and kids are going to pull it out, show their friends, and we just have a system that addresses that in a productive manner. So, any more discussion on that?
And this item is on the agenda during the regular meeting for
later on.
a vote.
Moving on to item number 2 of old business, historical drawings. Artie?
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Burbidge. You'll recall a few meetings back, a family came in and made a presentation to the board with some really cool historic drawings. I've looked through those spools, and there's some incredible architectural drawings there dating back to the original school. It built in, I think, 1932, 33, if I'm not mistaken. We have been in contact with the Poquoson Museum, and they are willing to and would like to have those items, if you're willing. We don't really have a display area that can do that justice. They have to be taken care of, and, the paper has to be, there's a process. We would like your consideration to donate those items to the museum where they can be displayed in future years. They have quite a few artifacts about not only that school, but the growth of Poquoson through the school system. And we have a model that is housed currently in the media center at the high school of that building that would make a nice addition to that piece at the museum. So we would like you to consider making that donation. They're willing to receive it and take care of it and give it the proper display. A lot of people visit that museum, and they're able to tell the history that goes with it as well. So I think it's a great idea. So it doesn't require a vote. If there's not any objection to that, we'll move forward with that. That is our recommendation.
And if something happens, the museum closes or something like that, do we get?
Well, we could put that in an agreement. There's a lot of items in that museum. It's a cool place.
I don't think it's going anywhere, but just.
Yeah,
just,
we could add that as part of the
So
agreement.
I had made and I don't know, Mike, this. Let's look at some of the engineering principles that went into
And that'd be
and
really
that
easy
way
to do.
it's in perpetuity as long as. I don't know, that was just a thought that I had. Obviously, it's
Into it, see how much and if it's feasible.
Well, I mean, it was given to us, so we have to hold it for a certain amount of time, so I think
large format
Yeah,
scanners.
Yeah, some of the A&E, like reprographic firms and stuff like that, they'll do it in our.
yeah, you can digitize prints up to 48 inches.
It sounds like we have some agreement there and doesn't really require a vote. Lastly, as Dr. Burbidge mentioned at the beginning, board voted November, I believe, meeting to start in 2024 broadcasting work sessions. This is our kind of experiment with doing that tonight in our traditional way, where we broadcast in the same way we do our meetings. It's live, being broadcast on a couple of channels. Requires a team of ITRTs to work this system and extends their workday. So, often we do have work sessions that are lengthy. We've got one coming up in February that we'll be talking about in a minute as we delve into the budget. So, a couple of thoughts on this. We can staff this. It's a bit of a challenge. It's additional workload, but we can staff this doing it this way. We checked around with other school divisions, and they do it a lot of different ways. Some school divisions do not broadcast in any way the work sessions. Some record them and make them public the following day. So that's another option. Can be audio recording, visual recording, or both, which wouldn't require the same level of piece. We could have it set. We know we wouldn't be toggling to different folks. It would just be recorded and available the following day for anybody who wanted to listen and watch. So those are options for us. One being the option we're experimenting with now does require some additional staffing into the evening. So just your thoughts on that. I brought it on the agenda for a work session just to hear your comments. We don't have to make a decision tonight. Again, we will plan to broadcast in some form every work session, as you all voted to do, but the format is up to you.
I'm okay with either. If it takes less of their time, then record it and put it on the next day. I don't think people who's watching it live, and they're saying, I wish I could see that now instead of seeing it the next day.
I agree. I mean, I really think most of the problem is availability at this time. So I'm not really sure that a live broadcast at this time is any more valuable than, I mean, promptly, tomorrow, the next day. But I'm not really sure that I see a problem. Again, considering the staffing needs, I would think 12-hour delay is certainly reasonable.
So who would be responsible for recording?
Oh, we
Whether
would have to
audio or
work through
video.
those details. That gives us, a month until our next meeting to get a plan together, whose responsibility it would be. I would try to work among our team who already attends these work sessions. So one of us would be the one responsible. We'd have a plan B always in place to have it ready, and then the expectation, of course, would be to have it available with a link to our website the following day.
And
You
what
know, but these are live now, but y'all put them up on the website the next day anyway,
Correct.
so it wouldn't add any work the next day to put it up. because
Correct,
you're
no
doing it
difference
already.
really. Yep, that staff is that's already in the, we already have those protocols in place.
Times, yeah.
And since they're doing additional work, out of the scope of what they were doing before, could there be a stipend involved with it?
Could be, as you know, part of this budget process is we're going to be presenting a stipend audit that we've been conducting. Spence has been working on that for some time. So part of the budget conversation will be stipends, and we can certainly entertain that as a part of that. There's a lot that we'll be talking about in that. We have quite a few stipends already, have been in place, many for many years, and then there's some new ones we may want to talk about. But all those have a dollar.
So, I definitely think they need to be broadcast. A couple of comments. I think we need to be consistent in how we do it. Like, we can't do a video, like, I'm thinking like a video one week, and then the next week have a tape recorder sitting on the, I think public needs us to be consistent in how we do it and how they access it when they need it. The other concern that I have is if we ever don't meet a work session in this room, like if we move next door, how do we move away from this system? How would that, we need to think about that as well. How we're going to do this.
The work sessions are gonna be around a table.
Yeah.
Spread out.
And it's more of, sometimes we haven't been able to go in that room because of EOC stuff and, things like that. So we've always primarily, been here regardless whether it's a regular session, or work session.
Yeah. I mean, like the next month is going to be a long work session.
Yeah, that's the feedback we needed. Sounds like there's some agreement here to move forward with, maybe in our next meeting, since that's a lengthy one, we'll record that without staff. Try that, see how it works, and then we can always come back and revisit this. The main thing is we've heard loud and clear from our constituents that they want to know what's going on in these things. They've always been open to the public. It's good to have them available for people who can't make it to the meeting and watch it the next day.
Transparency.
Yep,
I think
absolutely.
also, being where it's recorded, where we can refer back to it if we need to, prior to the
I do
next.
that sometimes, yeah, just to
Oh.
kind of
Absolutely.
remind myself what.
Okay.
New business, Artie?
We are going to be sharing with you, Ms. Spence is coming up. She's going to go through what we know now. I'm going to set it up just real quickly, and I'll maybe steal in a little bit of her thunder, but those of you who've been on the board for a while know that this is an interesting process, to say the least, because of the timing to put together a budget. We don't get the governor's budget until usually early January, and that's the case again this year. And that is the first step of the revenue side of trying to predict what our revenue will look like for the following year. Then the General Assembly goes to work, and both houses work diligently to cover the things that or fund the things that they find important. And it's the best example of the democratic process. But the challenge for us is trying to predict what's going to happen when we have a definitive date to deliver a budget to the city at the end of March. And of course, they have a quick turnaround to try to build a budget for the whole city and have that approved in a timely manner as well. So our challenge is we have a bookend. We have bookends. The governor's budget started the week before last, and we have to deliver an approved budget from this board to city council at the end of March. So that's been on our calendar, but now the hard work begins. Just a little backdrop. As you all know, we start with our employees and ask them what it is that you need to do your job at the highest levels. And that process goes on throughout the months of late November, early, we offered it a little earlier this year, didn't we? Started in October. Normally it's November, so to try to give as much time to really get the information we need from them. We don't want to hear from our teachers or the public that teachers are out having to spend their own money to buy things that we ought to be buying as part of the commitment to providing a high-quality education. So that process has just finalized. Tracy and her staff have done an incredible job of putting all that together, and we'll be putting the fine touches on that over the next few weeks and reading the tea leaves of what's happening in Richmond to try to put together a budget that is balanced. Our goal every year is to come in with the revenue side and the expenditure side matching. And so we will deliver to you a balanced budget, and we will be, I have a meeting with the city manager on Monday, which starts our process. We work as a team to make sure that we're covering everything. We each know what we need to know about what's going on in our respective worlds to try to put together a budget that's not only sound, but also we can afford. So there's that piece. I will say this, Tracy and I were in Richmond last week, and we met with lots of different groups. It was the governor himself made his presentation. We heard from people from the General Assembly. We heard from the accounting office in Richmond. And as everybody's predicting, there's going to be some belt tightening. All of the ESSER money is now dried up, the federally infused money into our budgets. So there's going to be a bit of a challenge moving forward. So that's kind of the backdrop to the details that Tracy will give you in preparation for our hard work that happens in February.
I had a question. So our February work meeting, we're going to have a meeting to discuss the budget, and then we have to have it approved by March.
Correct.
Should we split that February into two meetings? Because there's sometimes we ask for more information, and then it's hard for y'all to get the information back to us to be able to approve this. And last year, I had to say no because I didn't get some of the information I wanted in time, and it's hard for you to get in time because when I tell you February 20th for you to get through March 19th is almost impossible.
Here's what we're asking. The thing that we can't change is the time frame. And what we're asking tonight, and that you'll notice the next item on the agenda, the last item on the agenda of the work session is to decide how we're going to skin this cat, so to speak. That breaking it up in two is a possibility. That won't change anything about what you just brought up. So what we're asking is, and this is our formal ask tonight, is that if you have questions or things you want to see answered prior to the budget, now's the time to send us. I got an email from you with several questions that we're working on. I met with Dr. Goodell with some other questions related to budget. So any of that you know now that you want answers to, now's the time to ask. Because once, I'm going to put all of those things in a document answering those questions, so you'll have all the information you need in the work session. Because the work session in February really is to peruse the budget that we've put together, covering all the bases. And if there's something that you want to know where it is or where it should be in the budget, now's the time to ask for that. Because once that budget is there, then we can make slight adjustments between February and the March meeting. But really, we're going to need approval in that March meeting, because that's a definitive deadline. And then, of course, we meet with City Council the following month in a joint work session to kind of work through the details of how our budget interacts with the city's budget. Did that answer your question? So if
Yeah,
you've got
but still
questions, send them to us, and we will share those every question asked individually, we'll share with the whole board, so everybody's been able to see that. The challenge is it has to turn into one budget from 7 kind of interest levels. The other piece of this to remember is that our budget doesn't have very much wiggle room. It's 82.3% salary. So the lion's share of this budget is personnel. We're a human resources business. And so the other pieces of that all make up a very small portion of the budget, and there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in those smaller pieces, just as a point of interest.
We'll still talk about how we want to attack it.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
For this budget work session, I'm going to give you a brief look at the governor's proposed budget as it currently stands. Sorry. There's a number of different factors that go into the FY25 budget. It's, as mentioned, I believe last month, this is the first year of a new biennium. And here are some of the factors I'm going to be discussing in more detail. Re-benchmarking, we discussed a little bit last time, begins the biennial budget development process. State and federal funding to school divisions for public education is provided through the direct basic aid to the public education budget, and then the General Assembly appropriates the funding. Now, direct aid is appropriated in 6 budgetary categories. It's the standards of quality, which you'll hear. We're going to be talking about SOQ positions, things of the like, what the governor funds, as whether it's bonuses or raises. Incentive programs, categorical programs, lottery proceed funds programs, supplemental education programs, and those federal funds that flow through the state. Input data used in the direct aid formulas is updated every year to recognize changes in costs that have occurred over the preceding biennium. For example, in the last 2 years, we've had the 5% increases and then the extra 2% last year. So they build it, they take it out of the last biennium and put it up in direct aid. The composite index trend is a formula to determine the ability to pay for each locality. Is based on a number of different factors: the true value of real property, the adjusted gross income for the locality, as well as taxable retail sales for the state, which is distributed amongst the divisions. This chart shows the change in LCI over the last 10 bienniums. For the 24-26 biennium, it did decrease to 0.3466, which means that we'll receive a little bit more, and you're going to see that, in revenue based on this new LCI. We also receive funding based on the average daily membership as of March 31st of each year. And as you can see in this chart here, we were experiencing an increase in enrollment right up to the pandemic. And enrollment has been relatively flat since fiscal year '22. However, as you know, with the new developments and things of that like, we're anticipating an increase in enrollment. Compensation. Now, in the governor's proposed budget, it includes a 1% bonus in fiscal year '25 and a 2% salary increase in fiscal year '26 for all SOQ-funded positions. And as mentioned earlier, Mr. Tillett, we are reviewing the instructional supplements. We'll be meeting this week to finalize that. For benefits, Anthem Dental provided us with a 2-year guarantee in fiscal year '22. Our advisor is currently working on providing updated rates for fiscal year '25, so I'm anticipating that very soon. They are estimating a health insurance increase of 9.5%. Using the current employee premiums and how they've chosen, of course, we don't know until they choose it, but right now, the estimated increase in cost is a little over $200,000. And here is the governor's proposed budget for Poquoson City Public Schools for fiscal year '25. This chart shows what they call the caboose budget, which was just released. We had some small increases there compared to what we had prior budgeted. And the fiscal year '25 governor's proposed budget comparison. Now, this is based on an average daily membership of 2,038. You can see that the SOQ funding, which includes sales tax increases by just over $2,960,000. This increase should be offset by the decrease in the compensation supplemental funding. That's what the state gave us for the raises, which yields a net increase of SOQ funding a little over $1.9 million. The proposed budget no longer includes the grocery tax hold harmless or the re-benchmarking hold harmless funding, which equates to a $946,000 decrease. In the last biennium, the governor's budget included funding for divisions to be held harmless from re-benchmarking reductions. That was due, and you only saw it in that biennium, because of the unanticipated reductions in the base year data that was affected by mandatory school closings and virtual school settings that resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic. Lastly, All in Virginia funding was a one-time revenue source at fiscal year '24. Without this, right now, you can see the increase of $900,000. If it wasn't for that decrease in All in Virginia funding, which revenue offset it increased expenditures, we would be like about $1.3 million, or 8.8% of the caboose budget. Now, that was the governor's. Now, that was introduced December 20th. The Senate got into session, the General Assembly got into session January 11th. And now they've already introduced budgets, their amendments to the governor's proposed budget related to education. Senate Bill 104 was introduced by Senator Louise Lucas, and that raised the salaries to the national average and calls for staggered raises for teacher and support staff. It would be 3% for the 25-26 year and 7% the next year. This bill has already unanimously passed the Senate's Education and Health Committee and has been referred already to the Finance and Appropriations Committee. The House Bill 187, which was introduced by Delegate Nadarius Clark, seeks to ensure teachers and support staff are paid at or above the national average by the 28-29 school year. As I mentioned earlier, the General Assembly convened last week on January 11th for its 60-day session. So important dates to remember, one that's not up there is February 18th, that's when the Senate and House release their own version of the revised budget. Then they all get in a room, see if they can all agree, and send it to the governor. They're scheduled right now to adjourn March 9th. That's when we're hoping we have a budget. By February 18th, I see people smiling, by February 18th, we'll know which way the wind's blowing, at least what the Senate and House has. I think it's encouraging that both the Senate and House already is out the gate and they're asking for raises for teachers. So I think that's very encouraging. Now, April 17th is when the governor will they're going to reconvene and take up the governor's amendments or vetoes. The next step, in February, as Mr. Tillett mentioned, he will plan to present the budget, proposed budget during the work session. At the regular meeting in March, there will be a public hearing on the proposed budget, as well as a school board discussion and budget approval can occur. And on April 22nd, there's a joint school board and city council work session. As you can see from the previous slide, there will not be a final state budget before the school is required to submit its budget to the city. Amendments to that school board approved budget may be necessary depending on the governor's final budget. So I just want to let you know this concludes my report. As mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, please go ahead and send those to us now so we can go ahead and start working on them as you're thinking about the budget. And just for your information, this same presentation is going to be shared with the public during the next meeting, during the board meeting following this work session. All right. Thank you very much.
So just a quick comment. Delegate Cordoza also introduced a bill as well. 24-25 is TBD, but 26-27 is 12%. And I just bring that up just because it's great to see all these bills, going around with all this work on wanting to turn around and increase salaries. But we need to make sure, and I think everybody knows this, we need to make sure that we're not in this scenario where everybody else continues to move away from us because of just all exponentials,
And addressing that, I know that Hampton Roads and Newport News currently, right now as it stands, are just going to be including in their proposed budget the 1% bonus. York, that's right now at this point how it was delivered. They are looking at 3 to 5%. So that's to the point. But like I said, we won't know.
My biggest fear is that, and I think, we've talked about it before, is trying to find a way to bring our teachers up to our locality's
Our
averages.
neighbors. Yes.
Because we're still going to turn around and run into issues.
Yeah.
Is there any options that we have, sales tax or anything like that could benefit the school system?
That's a very good question. In Virginia, the school systems don't have funding authority, taxing authority. All of our funds come from some other source. So our primary funding partners in Poquoson, we get a small amount of federal money, really just over $100,000. And the vast majority of our budget comes from two pots of money. The state funding, which is primarily through SOQ, as Tracy mentioned, and based on primarily average daily membership. And then the local partnership. And our city, I say it every time I have an opportunity to speak, does extraordinary things for the schools. With a small community of around 12,000 residents, the support that the schools get is really unmatched proportionally. So it's a challenge because every time we talk about this raising teacher salaries, everybody's in agreement. But the challenge is SOQ only funds about 53% of our salaries. So the other portion of that comes from the city, is the only other means to make up that difference. So when the state talks about these pay raises, 1%, 2%, 5%, 12%, unless they change the funding formula, we're ending up having to go to the city and say, can you match that, the other half, roughly, of that cost? Just so folks understand, a 2% pay increase costs a little over $350,000 annually. And that number goes up throughout time. So that's the challenge, is what we can do through this process to get all the state money we can put our hands on, of course, and then partner with the city. And they do an extraordinary job of trying to find every dime they can to make sure the schools are well taken care of.
Like my brother, he lives in York County, so I told him, I was buying something for $45 on Amazon, and I told him the total was gonna be $48.75. He got on and his total is $49.21. Just because he's ordering it to a York County address and I'm ordering it to a Poquoson address. So it's not a lot, but there's, I guess, some differences in sales tax or something that he's like, what do you mean it's that cost? No, it's not, it's this cost. And I'm like, no, it's not, it's this cost. I'm looking at it right now. And he's like, well, I'm looking at it. So I didn't know if there's something that we do differently than York County is the only one I know of that shows that there's always a cost difference when he orders his house and I order my house.
And that's a very good question, and I don't know how all that formula works. I do know that the funding mechanism in Virginia does afford a portion of sales tax to local school divisions. So we monitor that closely, and part of the challenge in the economy right now, that number keeps going down for us, our sales tax portion, because people are tightening the belt a little bit at home and spending less. But you're right, a portion of sales tax does go directly to schools. Unfortunately, schools don't have any authority in how that is calculated.
I did, I just saw it the other day and was like, wow.
Yeah, so York County 7%, Poquoson 6%, 1% is going toward the historical triangle.
There's the Senate Bill 14 that's out, that, I don't know if you've talked to the city council about that or not.
We're meeting on Monday, so part of that discussion, I've got several things, and we do this at the beginning of the budget cycle every year and kind of talk through what we're seeing, where we think things are going to land, because it is a bit of a chess game to try to figure out how to maximize the revenue as we can. In addition to this, as you all know, we're steadily writing grants. Unfortunately, grants are typically a certain number of years and they expire. So when you spend money on staffing with grants, you have to be careful about that process. We don't want to hire people and then say a few years later, sorry, can't pay you. So we try to structure our grant applications so that doesn't become a problem. But again, early stages, we're about to put the final touches on both our audit and the supplement stipend audit and the expense side of our budget. And now we're going to be reading tea leaves to figure out what the revenue side is. One thing we're pretty confident is it won't land with the bonus budget as the governor proposed, with both houses looking at more aggressive compensation. That talk to get to the national average has been in place for some time, and it seems to be now getting a lot of momentum. So that's exciting.
I guess the question is what is the national average right now, and where are we at?
That's also a moving target. The national average, every state in the country is doing the same thing that we're doing in Virginia right now, trying to figure out how we're going to pay for next year. And so teacher salaries are in almost every state a hot topic, and so that national average moves. I used to could quote it. I don't remember what that is now. And they, of course, take a median.
It's like 65,000.
It might be for the median. And of course, in Virginia, there's this other interesting dynamic, and that's Northern Virginia versus the rest of the state. If you look at salary distribution in the area around DC, you'll find that the salaries are considerably higher than you find scattered throughout the rest of the state. So how they're going to calculate that national average goal, we'll have to watch closely. But at any rate, it benefits compensation packages for teachers as that conversation continues.
Do you have the number of teachers that choose to do our insurance, or maybe teachers that have insurance through a spouse, just because of the look of the increase?
I can provide it to you.
Yeah.
No problem. Sure.
Those are, back to that point a little earlier, those are the kinds of questions that if you'll send those to us, we try to cover everything we think you anticipate you might ask, but it's important to let us know what's on your mind so we can include that, or at least an answer to the why. And we'll try to get that out as soon as possible. Our goal is if we could get those in the next couple of weeks. It's really a good idea to read through last year's budget. That gives you an idea. Some of those individual line items don't change much because that number doesn't change much. And again, keep in mind that 83% of our budget is salaries, is compensation.
I think that's gonna be our biggest
That's the
discussion.
elephant in the room
I mean,
always.
by far, I mean, I know it's already that high, but that's where,
That's the
we'll have
elephant
to
in the
figure
room, yeah.
I guess the only other new item is this work session for next month.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a proposal for us to think about, and you might want to have some discussion tonight. Our chair, as you know, is out of town on business, so she will, I'm certain, want to weigh in on this. Typically, what we've done is we have the work session after the February meeting. That's been in place for many, many, many years. And after that meeting, the board goes through all of the questions that are in the proposed budget, looks at where they want to land, try to come to some agreement about what needs to change in that, and then staff goes back and makes those changes, and then comes back to you in the March meeting for a final approval. Staff is available to do whatever you want us to do. I would only recommend that we go back to the old model for the February meeting and have our meeting first so that we do have time, not constrained by the hour, to really delve into that budget and answer all of those questions and make any recommended changes then. But if at that meeting you all feel like there's not enough time and you want to have another work session between that February meeting and the approval in March, that's totally up to you guys. I would suggest we wait and see what we get done in February, and if we need an additional meeting, it's always the pleasure of the board to do that.
Do you think we could try to have a work session a week before that 20th? Or is that gonna be, you won't have the numbers by us? If you don't, that's fine too.
Later's better for us. I would even love to push that meeting, the February meeting, back a week. The more we know about the budget, the less changes there's going to be. Right now, we don't know anything. Quite honestly, you've seen what we know about the governor's budget. I don't think anybody in Richmond thinks that's where it's going to land. So it's simply a well primer. Without getting into the political side of it, both houses in Virginia are of the opposite party from the governor. So oftentimes when that happens, there's a bit of less agreement. So what we are anticipating, all of the folks that analyze this and do this for a living are anticipating some pretty radical bills, some more aggressive funding bills coming out of the General Assembly over the next few weeks. Now, their target date, as you saw, is to be done March the 9th. I've never seen it happen since I've been here. So we'll see. We got a budget last year in September.
I think the work session's gonna take longer than an hour, and if we're trying to have a meeting behind it and trying to start this early, that's what I'm nervous about. And so I'd rather have a separate work session on a day that we don't have a school board meeting, and pushing it back further, that gets us closer to that 19th where you wanna answer, and if our answer is no, then what do we do at that time? And it was close last year of saying no, and you say you have a closed time at this time. That's why I don't want to push it back, and I kind of want to have more time to look into it. I'd rather have more time than less time when it gets to it, instead of being like, well, y'all have to approve it. Well, we got this. Well, there's no choice. Approve it now. And I would like to hopefully not hit that point that we did last time.
So your thought is that we would have the regularly scheduled February meeting, and we still have the work session?
I'm okay having a work session maybe on the 20th and then having our school board meeting on the 27th, but I don't want to have a work session before a school board meeting if we're going to try to talk about the budget.
Yeah, that was my recommendation, to flip it back to what we used to do. This work session before the meeting is only a new thing we've been doing in the last 5 or 6 meetings. So my recommendation is to have the meeting at 6 like we normally have, and then go into a work session where you've got several hours, if you need it, to debate what I'm presenting, and then giving a full month to decide if we need to schedule, or at that meeting to say, let's schedule another meeting to do whatever needs to be done prior to a vote in March. The definitive thing is the vote in March. That's the part that can't move.
Going to 9 or 10, some people up at 4:30 in the morning, it really does not work well. I am not for having a meeting and then going toward where everybody's late, tired, and just trying to get out and not paying attention and saying, hey, we're done with this. I would, and we need to discuss this and we can discuss it further, I would like a day of just, we come in here and we just worry about the budget. And then we could worry about the meeting some other time instead of having time constraints where I'm tired or I'm ready to bed. I've been up since 4:30 in the morning and now we're going at 10. So whatever, just sign whatever we need to. I'd really like to focus on this a little bit more than what we did last year. And I just don't want to hit the problem we hit last time. And I felt we were kind of rushed last year on some of the things we did when I was here. And so I would prefer to have a day set to say this is a work session. We don't have to end early and come in here. We don't have to do anything else other than look over this, and hopefully we look over it and everybody goes, this is the greatest thing ever. Sorry we wasted 30 minutes to come in here. Or it could be, hey, let's really drill down and get this done so you can have the information and make sure you have what we want on the budget too. So that's my suggestion. It'll still be up to everybody else at the time, and it could be something we can discuss again, but
Well, do we have to vote on the schedule change, or how do we handle it?
We don't generally vote in a work session.
No, I mean, not now, but in, okay.
We'll get, when Chair Martin gets back in town, we'll review all this with her, and she'll be in communication with you about scheduling a meeting, unless you all want to say, let's do what we have historically done now, and then try to schedule a meeting after that if we need it. It's going to take us the next few weeks to get this budget put together, so I really, I can't really promise that I can get it built any sooner than the February meeting, so I can present it then, and then if you need another date to go over that budget, I think that would be an appropriate time to schedule one.
Opposed to having a preliminary presentation and come back. That way and then there's stuff we can.
Gives us 2 weeks or a week to kind of look at it and come back the second.
20th, we won't have this, so we can really look at it, and then we can
Even if you have to kind of fly through a meeting and then have Barty just does his presentation, just gives us the packet, we have a week to digest.
Back for a focused work session.
Very doable. We can do that. Now, do you want to leave it with the presentation as the only agenda item for the work session and do it before the meeting, or flip it just leave it at that?
Time.
I work for you, so I'm available whenever.
as long as we're gonna be able to come back. I just don't want to do it after and then think that we have to get through everything when it starts getting late, because that normally does not work well for a lot of us who work all day too. You guys too, who are here first thing in the morning for school and students and everything, and then we're still trying to drag you here till 11 o'clock at night, and then y'all have to be back first thing in the morning too. I just don't think it's
Absolutely.
a fair thing to do.
That way we can prepare for the budget presentation on the normal schedule, be ready for that, make a presentation, give you the packet with all the numbers, you'll have everything there.
And
then if you decide at that meeting, we'd like to meet again next week, everybody can start thinking their calendar. That would be, would you say that was, Tim, the 27th? That next following Tuesday, we could have the chair go ahead and schedule that now, or you could just leave your calendars open, and if you need it, schedule it then. Either way, I think it answers that question, being available to revisit. Sounds like with a lot of heads nodding, we can move on with that. Okay.
All right, well, I guess we'll take a few minutes here until the 7 o'clock meeting starts. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to bring everybody's attention and call to order the January 16th Poquoson City School Board meeting. First order of business, Thatcher, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence, and an inspirational quote?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for a moment of silence. Thank you. And now for the quote. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be a sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are. And that is by Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you.
Ms. Firth, do we have any additions and/or modifications to the agenda tonight?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on to recognitions. Ms. Purdy, Senior of the Month.
Thank you, Vice Chair, members of the board, community members. Thank you for joining us this evening. Our January Senior of the Month is a very ambitious young man who is pursuing a career in either civil engineering or construction management, and he's already shown a really strong commitment towards goals by volunteering and participating in different experiences to further his knowledge base. For instance, he recently participated in an externship where he assisted in contract negotiations with W.M. Jordan and developed floor plans for the Hilton Animals Hospital to support their building renovations. In addition, he owns a landscaping business where he offers a variety of services, including home maintenance. This student's dedication to academic rigor has also really paid off, as he has earned a cumulative GPA of 4.07 and has been inducted into the National Honor Society, as well as the Mu Alpha Theta. After graduation, he plans to attend a four-year college or university. This young man prides himself on his excellent skills in teamwork, problem-solving, and effective leadership, and I'd also like to add a really great sense of humor. We are proud to recognize him as our January Student of the Month. Please join us in congratulating Mr. Oliver Fink on this very well-deserved honor. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Congratulations. I also wanted to mention that we had a distinction that occurred before our last school board meeting that we weren't aware of, and it ties in with the great work that our high school social studies department does in preparing our students for financial literacy. If you recall, last month, Mrs. Forestier was named a Gold Star teacher because of her students' success. Well, this also extends to Poquoson High School, as once again, they are a WISE Blue Star school, and for the distinction of last year. PHS has earned this distinction, I should say, many, many years in a row. And I just want to mention, to earn this Blue Star recognition, a school must have achieved an 80% passing rate on the WISE Financial Literacy Certification Test. And additionally, the criteria met is either majority of the students on a given grade level take the financial literacy test, or those who take it average an 85% or higher. So I would just want to congratulate to all the economics and personal finance students and their teachers for the 22-23 academic year. So we also have two guests, or two groups of guests this evening. Our first that we would like to have up would be Mr. Doug Sproul, Miss Mary Nelson, Isaac Wines, and Samuel Nelson on behalf of the PHS Band Boosters.
Well, good evening, everybody. Mr. Till and Mr. Burbridge, if you would join us up here, please, that would be great. One, you guys are brave for putting me on a microphone. It's really nice. This year, the band bought new uniforms, which in no short term is a very expensive venture. And the school board funded these uniforms. And so we had a night where we posed for pictures, and we wanted to say thank you. During my time here, I inherited a set of uniforms when I first came here a long time ago, fully fundraised by the band parents at that time. We bought the next set, fully fundraised by the band parents at that time. The set we had before this was about 50-50 between fundraising and the school board. This is the first one that the school division paid all of it. And heartfelt thanks for me for us to finally get there. I want to thank all of you guys for your support over there. And so we had a really nice portrait made for you guys to post and just to say thank you from the band. So thank you so much. You be on that.
Thank you all very much. I know, it is great.
Thank you very much. Next up, we would like to have Ms. Kay Bolden from the Poquoson Art League.
Good evening. The Poquoson Art League really wants to support the arts in our school system. So the board voted to give a contribution to the 4 schools, the primary, elementary, middle, and high school. So I have checks here, and hopefully this money will help boost the budget for the art department for the rest of the year. So I'll do the primary school first, whoever is going to come up and get that. Maybe we can do some fun project this spring.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the elementary school. Thank you. The middle school. Thank you. And the high school. And we always give a scholarship too, so make sure the high school students know that the Art League is going to give, and we give it to art and music too, so in that kind of thing. So,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that community partnership, Ms. Bolden. That concludes our recognitions and announcements for the evening.
Okay, can we move on to presentations and reports? Ms. Brown?
All right, good evening, Vice Chair Burbidge, board members, Mr. Tillett, our PCPS students, staff, administrators, and our incredible Poquoson community. So we're going to begin our instructional updates tonight with an overview of the proposed changes to the 2024-25 program of studies. The school division is responsible for providing a robust instructional program to meet the needs of all of our students. Each year, our program of studies is reviewed, and it's revised to include changes, revisions, and requirements for our VDOE curricula and our programs to update course offerings. And we also update our descriptions if needed, which is something that we undertook this year. The school counseling director and administrators at both the middle school and high school solicit input from their staff for our new or revised program of studies. A committee of school-based and school board office staff collected all of the information, modifications, anything that changed with our regional programs for inclusion in our POS. In addition, revisions to course descriptions are going to be reflected just to make sure that they're accurate. Tonight we bring these changes to you, and once approved, they'll be added to the 24-25 program of studies. Breaking that down, we'll start with the high school. As you'll see, there are a few course additions and minor modifications which will need your approval this evening. At the high school level, we'd like to offer the following courses. We're looking at pre-AP World History, which we're looking into having a pre-AP program to start building and growing to increase our enrollment in our AP classes and provide support. We're also looking to offer, College Board is now in, AP Central is now offering AP Seminar, and they're offering English credit for it, and we'd like to bring that to our English 10 students as an opportunity. So those will still have AP Seminar as a possibility, but those who want to take English 10 and get that AP credit can now do so. Another offering from College Board we'd like to bring to Poquoson is going to be AP Pre-Calculus. We have a current class, which is our Teacher Cadet program. Terminology has changed a bit with the state, and it is our teachers, Virginia Teachers for Tomorrow class. They also have a DE offering, an option for that for students. And we are looking to work with Virginia Peninsula Community College to offer that as a college credit for our students who want to take it. We also would like to add chemistry honors to the mix, again, to increase some of the rigor in our classes. Drama 3 for our students who have taken Drama 1 and Drama 2 and really have a passion for it to expand. And then also credit recovery. Credit recovery would be a course that's offered to students who have already accumulated the seat time, have taken the course before, however, still need a little bit of instructional assistance and will have met the guidelines for credit recovery. Typically, we offer that through our partnership with Apex, which is an online learning software program. So focus area 1 of our strategic plan focuses on teaching, learning, and instruction, and we're hoping that expanding the current curriculum and instructional programs will also really boost the rigor and increase those achievements from our students. We also have for course deletion, World Geography. The Virginia Department of Education has now moved World Geography down into a middle level course, and so it is no longer a high school option. Students will be taking World History 1. They can take World History or AP European History at the 10th grade level, but that World History class we offered last year is a new course, and now we're ready to fully phase it in. Advanced Math is also going to be recommended as a course deletion. Currently, students who are looking to take an advanced math course, the recommendation from VDOE is to take the Math Analysis Pre-Calculus course. Advanced Math is not typically recognized by the state as an advanced course, so we just want to make sure that we are in line with our terminology. And as noted earlier, Teacher Cadet. Our course modifications that we are requesting are going to be creative writing. We have added creative writing 2, so now we're asking to have our freshmen have an additional elective option for those who really enjoy writing to take creative writing as a 9th grader. The capstone course modification is one that I want to discuss with you tonight. In our program of studies, PCPS has had our capstone elective, and our capstone experience is what we've called it. And typically, students who would be entering their 11th grade year coming up next school year would take that class. However, our recommendation is to adjust this a bit. Instead of offering capstone as a capstone course, many school divisions within the area and some of the other programs we've looked at actually have a capstone project experience, and it's embedded within one of the graduation courses that are required for a diploma. The benefits for this are twofold. First, we would have our students able to take that course and free up another course class that they have, so they wouldn't have to use a capstone experience. They could take an advanced level course, they could take a fine arts course or an elective in their area of interest. The other benefit of that would also be the staffing implication. In order to offer the course next year, that would require an additional teacher to staff the mandated course. Capstone course is a Poquoson local graduation requirement. It is not a state requirement. So that is something that we have the opportunity to have a little flexibility with. And then finally, what you'll notice in your packet are going to be those modifications to the English and math course descriptions. We really went through that, compared that to the state, what we were offering. Our teachers submitted their proposed description. We had our literacy coach and math coach go through those in depth to make those changes and adjustments that you see. Also, you'll notice there are some kind of clerical things, a little cleanup, and we've added a little bit of that too, as well as you may see Thomas Nelson Community College. Some verbiage has been changed to reflect the updated names. All right, other proposed changes that we have. Our current program of studies includes our GPA cap for juniors and seniors, and we're proposing the cap removal to ensure that students aren't negatively impacted when applying for scholarships and applying for colleges or other competitive post-secondary opportunities where GPA is a factor. We have, the Board of Education has also added 2 additional diploma seals. They are the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math seal, or the STEM seal. It's replacing the Advanced Math and Technology seal, and of course, the newer seal of Seal for Excellence in Science and the Environment. So those 2 are just updating so that we're in line with our VDOE seal options. In addition, 8th grade students will now take the integrated reading and writing test, the IRW. In the past, we've had that grade 8 writing test. This will be the test that kind of replaces it in namesake. They piloted it last year, or I say piloted, they field tested it last year. And so the state has brought it on board, and so we are just following what the state is doing and requiring. All right, and we have a couple of changes for middle schools as well. So after looking through our courses that we have, we are making a recommendation to add a Math 6 honors course. Currently, we have 2 options for 6th graders coming in from the elementary school. We have those students who are able to take regular academic math, and we have students that jump up to pre-algebra. There's really no middle course. Pre-algebra is an 8th grade level course equivalency. Math 6 is right on 6th grade level. So we're looking for something that is able to take some of our other students who are ready but maybe not prepared yet for pre-algebra and put them at that Math 6 level, Math 6 honors. That would also lead to a change. This year we had pre-algebra 6 and pre-algebra 7. However, due to staffing, we combined the classes to see how it was, and it was a need. It actually worked out very well. So the change that we are requesting is to have a pre-algebra honors, where it would be the 6th and the 7th grade coming together for that course. And then also the English, math, and in the middle level, we have the technology course descriptions, which you will see reflected in there, that are updated and now fully aligned. Thought I missed one. All right, so this year our parent informational meetings to talk about all the different scheduling options are coming up in February. As you'll notice at the high school, February 8th, they will have at 6:00 p.m. a parent session for those rising freshmen and 9th grade students. The middle school will have their rising 6th grade night at 6:00 p.m. on the 21st, and it'll be followed by a session for parents of 7th and 8th grade students. One thing I'd like to call your attention to at the high school is that they will also have scheduling meetings for their rising 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students, and those are individual meetings that are held with a counselor. Those individual meetings parents are invited to and encouraged to attend, so that way you can talk about the academic career plan for your child and be involved in that counseling and scheduling process. That information will be coming out, so this is hot off the press. Thank you for the schools for providing that information. More information will be sent through Parent Square, which is our unified and universal communication thing. All right. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the Virginia Literacy Act and our K-5 Literacy Core Instructional Program selection. The first thing that I'd like to do tonight is truly highlight and send a very special thanks to the members of our K-5 Literacy Core Instructional Program Selection Committee. So up there we have from our division leadership, Ms. Kimberly Montalvo, our Director of Assessment and Accountability, Ms. Kelly Purdy, the Professional Learning and Communications Supervisor, Ms. Dara Libby, our Literacy Coach, Poquoson Primary, we have Ms. Ruth Marie Cason, principal, Wendy Green, our reading specialist there, Miss Nina Richardson, Tori Alves, and Carrie Griffin, which are all teachers at Poquoson Primary School. Representing our Poquoson Elementary School, Miss Kimberly Grisco, our principal, Amber Thompson and Cheryl Piercy, our reading specialist, Nicole Flynn, Laura Carr, and Rebecca Clancy, which represent our teachers. I have to say that this group has met several times. They have looked through different sets of instructional materials. They have sat for presentations by vendors and gone through all of the online programming and digital resources to really go through and weed out to make sure that everything is aligned to curriculum and VDOE standards. I have to say a special thanks, of course, to our newly hired this year literacy coach, Ms. Dara Libby, who is just phenomenal in leading our division in our literacy initiative to make sure that we are headed the right way and that we have all the supporting resources and materials that are needed, and really coaching our teachers and being part of our PLC meetings. So she has just been a blessing. So our committee met and selected an instructional program. The program that was selected was HMH's Into Reading. The process that was chosen, once our committee went through 4 different vendors, which I mentioned at a previous meeting, they then had 2 different programs that were sent to the schools to review in depth in their PLC meetings. Those 2 options were Benchmark Advance and Into Reading. After careful review, they went through PLC meetings, faculty meetings, delved into the materials. It was an overwhelming selection for Into Reading, and so that is the one that we are going to be looking to put on display. So as we review the textbook adoption process, summer and fall, we reviewed our VDOE approved K-5 literacy programs. The literacy leadership team met with our vendors for the approved programs. December and January, remember VDOE sent out their approved core instructional program list. Our committee identified the 2 programs for school review and selected HMH. So where are we now? We're looking from January 17th, which is tomorrow, until February 15th. We will have our 30-day public review and feedback session for Into Reading. And then in February, we will be coming to you all for the school board based upon everything that we have and any feedback that is received to hopefully have our text approved. And then following that, we'll be working with our school staff and our leaders to create curriculum resource guides, cross-curricular lessons and activities to make sure that when our teachers start up next year, we're ready to rock and roll from the beginning. All right, and that leads us to our last update tonight, which is going to be on our strategic plan. A copy was also provided to you in your packet. But we are charting our progress now. So overall, you're aware for our strategic plan, we have our 5 focus areas. The first focus area is teaching, learning, and instruction. Some of the highlights from this year specifically that we have looked at and completed. We now have a literacy core curriculum that's up for approval and review for our communities. We're super excited about that. It meets all of our VLE standards. We have accelerated math pathways. If you will also notice, there have been just a couple of tweaks to the sample schedules provided in the program of studies. Hopefully one of the things that you noticed in your packet is the increased rigor and opportunities for students to see how that rigor translates into a schedule. We have offered several professional development opportunities through Spark. This includes instruction, it includes our integrating our technology, and many other sessions as far as literacy, math, and differentiated instruction, and of course the course additions that were introduced tonight. Focus area 2 is social emotional well-being. Some of the focus areas that we have had this year are building those positive relationships within our schools, also increasing our student involvement in school activities, which is something we are continuing to strive to do, and offering more opportunities within our schools. Focus area 3 is effectiveness and engagement. One platform that was purchased that we have used and a great deal. A huge thank you to Ms. Kelly Purdy, who has really led that charge with Vector Solutions, is revamping our evaluation and our engagement observation forms and the entire platform. This is not only the classroom observations, but it's also our summative evaluations of our staff. Instructional walkthroughs, the Division Instructional Leadership Team visiting the schools, getting into classes, discussing what is seen, some of the things that align, are we aligned, and what is the level of rigor in those classrooms. We also have had PLC training that started this summer, and we have been attending some PLC meetings. How are these collaborative groups working to push instruction forward and to assess student learning and to drive some of the goals that we have that fall into our strategic plan? And finally, our gifted audit that was held earlier this year really pushed some of those courses that we have offered and really allowed us to dive into the data. We are currently in the middle of gathering data for our special education programs, and so that'll be the next thing that we're bringing you for our special education audit, because our hope is that we will be able to dive in there, come up with recommendations, and then that will be able to be seen towards the end of the school year, beginning of September, with how we plan to move forward there. Focus area 4, parent and community engagement. We've had parent representation on our division school meetings from our attendance committee that was established, as well as our division Virginia tiered systems and supports meetings. Both of those meet monthly to solicit our parent feedback. We have parents involved, at least one parent from every school building. In addition to that, our anti-bullying committee also has representation from students and parents as well. We have SEAC. I'm sure that you notice our paint night for SEAC was huge, with over 50 families coming along. It's very exciting to know that we are creating opportunities that are not just based on sit and get information, but actually including our students, including our parents, so that we can get that information, but also meet each other and have our students experience that as well. We have sent out surveys to receive parent impact or input. One of those surveys would be our gifted survey that went out to parents to kind of see what we needed. Other surveys that we'll be looking to have in the future are also going to see how can we do things better, what are some ways parents have feedback to get us, but really trying to get that input. And of course, Parent Square. One of the number one things that we've heard from parents, from staff, is they love having the universal way that parents know where to get their information, and we're not just sending bits and pieces everywhere. So we're super excited and glad that we're able to get the communication out very quickly to all staff members and parents and community. Finally, our last focus area is finances, facilities, and operations. We transitioned to a Raptor ID system just to increase the safety and security within. That's all visitors that enter into our school building, checking against our sex offender registry and doing that quick background check. Our playground audit, when it comes from a safety standpoint of what do we need to do now, anywhere we can audit the different things that we have in our buildings, we try to do so. Also hiring school security officers, so the school security officers that are now coming into our buildings. Reviewing our stipend audit as it relates to finance to see how we can effectively compensate teachers, make sure that we are doing it effectively. And finally, our budget and our capital improvement plan, the continuous update there. Last thing for teaching, learning, and instruction that I would like to review are going to be one of the areas that we've noticed that you'll see in your packet several different charts and graphs of data laid out in many different ways. I did want to show one so that you could see one of our focus areas as we move into next year, which will be increasing our enrollment in our dual enrollment and advanced placement courses. I'm a firm believer that students do not have to be college bound to take a dual enrollment or AP course for it to be beneficial. Any student who takes advanced college level rigor or advanced rigor really benefits, whether it's going into the military and ranking up when they get there for the different college credits that they bring in there. We offer different programs that have certifications along with them. So some of our students who are going into their careers can go into their careers at an advanced rate, bringing more certifications in, making them a more viable candidate and more competitive. So it's definitely an area of focus. 2018, you can see some of our numbers there. I'll let you kind of reflect on the numbers a little bit. As you see, it's kind of a slope downward in advanced placement. We did come up this year, and trending a little bit to a slope up. We did have a dip after COVID for dual enrollment. That is to be seen. The more dual enrollment courses you offer, sometimes it's a competing program. So if your AP courses are going down, your dual enrollment might be going up because typically students are going to make that choice. So with that being said, dual enrollment, just as a reminder, AP, they are college level courses. The difference between the two for dual enrollment students need to earn a C or above and ensure that course is transferable. We are in talks and had meetings last week with Virginia Peninsula Community College to ensure that the courses that we are offering are going to meet the UCGS course list that they have, and there's also the passport courses that are offered. Students, if they are not getting an associate's degree or maybe a certificate, there's also a passport route, which kind of gives them about 20 course credits that they can take, and it is transferable. There is one English class that I think JMU doesn't accept, but, you know, they work with their counselors on that basis. Advanced placement, the difference is as they take those courses, they must pass the course and score a 3, a 4, or a 5 on the advanced placement test. The difference is it is up to the individual university what score they will accept. Some universities will accept a 4 or 5, others may accept a 3, and that's where that collaboration. But all websites, typically for university and colleges, will list that on their website. So counselors have done a great job having those discussions with parents and students. And that concludes the instructional updates. Do I have any questions?
I have a question. So what do you mean we used to cap our GPA? Because apparently it's struck through, so we'll be voting to approve that. So why did we cap the GPA?
And that is a great question. I believe that came about in 2000 as I looked through previous notes in my computer. 2000, there was a recommendation to remove the valedictorian salutatorian and to have the GPA cap so that in the presentation said so there was less competition of students. And I think that over the years, we want to make sure our students have the very best advantage because there is competition from other divisions.
And I can just say this, I can't find any reason to cap a GPA. It's something I can't explain. It was in place, and it's time to get rid of that. It's an archaic practice that, I haven't seen school systems do in a long time. So if you don't do anything else tonight, definitely vote to get rid of that.
So are we going to reintroduce the valedictorian, salutatorian?
That is.
No, there's no, they're not connected in any way. Again, we have searched and searched to try to find the why for the cap and just can't find it. They're not correlated with Val and Sal. Poquoson decided at some point to get rid of Val and Sal to broaden that availability of accolades to go on to universities, so it doesn't land on just two individuals. Oftentimes, the Val and Sal are tenths of a point different, and that in a class our size of 170 students, you might have 8, 10 kids, especially getting rid of this cap and encouraging high rigor classes with quality points, so kids are very competitive. Those numbers are going to be very, very close. So I personally recommend highly this cum laude program that we have in place so that kids can say I'm in the top 10, 15, 20 of my class and not limit it to a Val and a Sal. That's the trend around the country. Universities are not all that focused on that distinction for 2 students in a class of 170 kids.
No other divisions have a cap.
And the 30-day public review and feedback for the literacy program, can you explain that, please? Like, what's going to take place? What input can be provided? Stuff like that.
Sure. Typically, what we'll have is a 30-day review period where we will have a selection of our of our programs, we have a sampling that is there that will be provided in the school board office. The reason that we are doing it that way is because while that's a sampling of the different texts and books, because it is a very in-demand program and it is on back order now. However, we do have an electronic, the entire textbook, curriculum, everything that they have. And so when people can come to the school board office, they'll be able to have access to computer. We can give them an account to log in and they can have at it. And we will provide all of the Chromebooks that are needed.
In regards to Mr. Ingram's question, I think that the public having a chance to look at this is great. However, a lot of parents don't have time to come by during regular working hours. Will
Right.
efforts be made to give them access on an as-needed basis, or?
Sure. And it may be something we discuss, the public library or something where there's the weekend updates. We just need to work with them regarding that access code.
The library, just like we did with Karen Schools, that would be good. Get some access.
Absolutely, we can definitely discuss that and get more access.
I had a question on the secondary programs, and wasn't really there, I was kind of reviewing what was on the board packet. The AP program, it's just the term is just the students are expected to take the exam and not really like required. I think we get a lot of kids taking that course, and the participation rate in that exam is not great. I think that's a lot of information that is lost.
So I
as far
added
as, like-
expected because I'm not quite sure because of the cost that we can require it because we're not paying for it, but I do agree with
We
you.
put it in the fee schedule, like you have to pay to play a VHSL sport, you have to pay to take the AP course. I mean, you have to have the expectation go in there, or have an incentive to say, if you take, if you only take the course, it's .75 GPA boost. If you take the test, you get your full point. Sometimes, if you have a kid that takes it and they get a 5 and they get the same GPA point as somebody that takes it and,
I'm going to
doesn't take the
defer
test.
to my fearless leader.
What I'd love to see us move toward, which is what I'm used to, where I came from, is we should require the test, but we've got to find a funding mechanism. We work with, what's the name of that?
NIMSY.
NIMSY, I always forget that acronym, which is a STEM academy too, funds some of these tests, and I can't remember what percentage. We trained our staff through that process, through that grant. It didn't yield as many paid-for tests as we had hoped, but we're going to continue to push in that direction. Again, what I'd like to be coming to you in the near future with a recommendation is to require, you sign up for the test, you take the class. We have, a lot of school divisions do that, but what you can't do is require it without funding it. So we got to find a way to make that happen, I think, is our best bet, and we can grow those numbers significantly. I'd love to see us, add 20% to that, and I think it's very doable, but because it's one in the same, to really get the full extent of the AP program, you need to take the
Is that in
test.
your crystal ball for the budget coming up next month?
It's not in the crystal ball, but it is in the conversation, so I think we should have that as part of the conversation. We'll have numbers for you about what that cost would be, but I would like to see that be something we could talk about.
If that is something would we update that document?
Yeah, we can always, this document is, we have to get it approved now so we can start the process she just talked about, getting kids enrolled. But we can come back and make that change in the program of studies, because the primary document is electronic. We do print some, and we can go back and make those changes. But I do think that's worthwhile for a conversation. We just have to get this done so that we can get our kids enrolled.
How much are the tests?
It depends. So they're about $100 a piece unless you're taking the AP seminar class. I haven't heard if this extends to the English 10 AP seminar. I imagine that it would, and that's around $140. I think the AP computer science might also be around that cost percentage as well.
We do something like we do the lunches, where if someone's in need, of course, we can look at that.
Absolutely, and we've always done that. And secondly, there are other groups that may be interested in partnering with us on this. I don't want to throw it out there without a conversation, but PEF is always willing to partner when we ask. This might be something they'd be interested in. It is a valid investment.
You get the numbers, I guess, of about how
Yeah.
much it'll cost us.
Absolutely. College Board offers, in addition to that, a reduced rate for those students, depending on income.
I think it'd be great just to get feedback on how
Yep.
much our students are learning from these programs too. If they're not doing good, we need to adjust. If they're doing great, we know we have great teachers, and we need to make sure we keep them.
Sticker inflation too, everybody's getting an A in the course, but everybody's getting a 2 on the test then.
And it's
data
hard to
teacher
get
can
some
use.
valid results right now unless you have every student taking it. It's really skewed.
I have a quick question, kind of on a different vein, but in the strategic plan update, there was reference to an employee engagement survey, and I know it was in progress last year. I was just curious. I think there's a lot of valuable information that can come for that, and now that we're coming into the budget process, I mean, obviously, we need more money for teacher raises, but along the same vein, just curious if that is, I know it's in progress, but where in progress at a very high level without going down a totally different path?
It's in progress. We're looking at our student engagement as well because we want to start getting some indicators and those things. However, we are hoping to have it finished by the end of the year so that we can start at least having that baseline there.
Great.
All right. Thank you all so much.
Dr. Ratliff for the operations update.
Good evening, Vice Chair Burbidge, Mr. Tillett, and board members. Tonight I have your operations update. We're going to begin tonight a little bit with human resources. Intent forms just went out to all the employees in the division, and those forms essentially are just what they're titled to be. They're seeking the input from the staff members for their intent for next year, whether they're going to plan on continuing to work with us, if they plan on going somewhere else, if they plan on resigning, if they plan on retiring, essentially what their intent is for this upcoming school year. In the school world, you see this just about everywhere around this time of year, and it really is the thing that helps us begin our planning for staffing for the upcoming school year. The forms went out in the beginning of January. They're going to be due back at the end of January. Once we get these forms back is when we can actually go ahead and start the hiring process for next year. If we see and we know that someone is leaving, we'll go ahead immediately and start getting jobs posted. And principals will begin to hire. Once we start going to job fairs, we will start the hiring process from that. And really, it's the first step in, I guess, what you could call kind of the hiring season for us in education. Right now, the job fairs that we're scheduled to go to for this year, William and Mary, Christopher Newport, Longwood, Old Dominion. Last year, we held a virtual job fair in March. We're looking again to see if we want to do that again this year. We'll narrow down that a little bit more closer to the time that it comes. Social media advertisements, that has worked well for us in the last several years. Once we have positions come available, especially those in higher need, we'll hit those harder again. And then last year, we did establish a presence on Indeed with our postings. That will continue as well. Calendar. I've been working on the calendar since around this past October. So the plan right now is we'll go ahead and give you guys a draft of it at the February work session. What we had talked about and what we would like to do is if we're able to have a work session prior to the March meeting where we can present all of the dynamics and the ins and outs of everything. That way you'll have had a chance to hear exactly where everything came from, and you'll have had plenty of time to digest that and then hopefully vote on it in that March meeting for the 24-25 school year. The last thing that I have for you tonight is on school security officers. After tonight, hopefully we're going to have a school security officer hired at the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school. All three of the ones that we've hired are former police officers, which really works out well. It's kind of what we had envisioned as the positions were being developed. And as a side note, 2 of the 3 are also bus drivers, going to be bus drivers. So really, we've been pretty successful in the hiring. It's taken a while, but it has, I think we've capitalized on a lot of our needs and what we're able to do with what we have. Once we get the right applicant for the primary school, we'll look at hiring for that school as well. So that is my operations update for tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Yeah, so what would the right applicant be for the primary school? What are y'all looking for differently than the other schools?
Ideally, if we can get a former police officer, a retired police officer, someone from the military, just someone that has a security background and really a background with working with kids. We've been fortunate so far in what we found, and we have found a pretty dynamic range of individuals that we've found for the schools, and really looked and found some good matches for schools. So really, as with any staffing, it's a matter of finding the right person for the right place. But if we're able to get someone that does have a law enforcement background or a military background and has worked with kids, that's the right person. But ultimately, you're just looking for the right match for the location. Thank you.
Ms. Firth, do we have any public comments tonight? Oh, but finance, sorry,
We already got it earlier.
Yeah.
You got it earlier. She'll make this a condensed version.
Yeah, no worries at all. Okay. Good evening, Vice Chair Burbidge, members of the school board, and Mr. Tillett. And for the finance report this evening, as I mentioned earlier during the work session, I'm going to present a brief look at the governor's proposed budget for all the people out in the audience and who's looking online. For the FY25 will be the first year of the new biennium, and here's the budget factors that are going to be considered, and go into more detail in the next few slides. Rebenchmarking, as told before, begins the biennial budget development process, and state and federal funding to school divisions for public education is provided through the direct aid to public education, and the General Assembly appropriates the funding. Direct aid is appropriated in 6 budgetary categories, and input data used in the direct aid formulas is updated every 2 years to recognize changes in costs that occur over the preceding biennium. The local composite index is the formula which determines the ability for each locality to pay based on multiple factors. This chart shows the change in the LCI over the last 10 bienniums. For the 24-26 biennium, the LCI decreased to 0.3466, which means that PCPS will receive a little bit more revenue based on this new LCI. We receive state funding based on the average daily membership as of March 31st of each year. And as you see, PCPS was experiencing an increase in enrollment going up to the pandemic in 2020, and it's been relatively flat since 22. The governor's proposed budget, which came out December 20th, includes a 1% bonus in fiscal year 25 and a 2% salary increase in fiscal year 26 for all SOQ funded positions. And we've mentioned in the past, we're currently reviewing the instructional supplements, otherwise known as stipends as well, for the FY25 budget. Regarding benefits, Anthem Dental provided us with a 2-year guarantee in fiscal year 22, and our advisor is currently working on estimates for FY25. And we are estimating a health insurance increase of approximately 9.5%. This equates, based on current employee premiums, an estimated increase in cost of a little over $200,000. This chart shows the FY24 caboose budget that was presented in December 20th as well for the FY25 governor's proposed budget, based on an average daily membership of 2,038. You can see the SOQ funding, including sales tax increases, by just over $2.9 million. This increase should be offset by the decrease in compensation supplement funding related to the raises given the last 2 years, which yields a net increase of SOQ funding of $1.9 million. The proposed budget no longer includes that grocery tax hold harmless or the rebenching hold harmless funding, which equates to almost a $950,000 decrease in state revenue. In the last biennium, the governor's budget included funding for divisions to be held harmless from benchmarking reductions. That was due to unanticipated reductions in the base year data that was affected by mandatory school closings and the virtual school settings that were resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic. Lastly, All of Virginia funding was a one-time revenue source in fiscal year '24. Without this one-time funding, the decrease related to this one-time funding, the increase for total state revenues would be $1.3 million, or 8.8% of our current budget. Now, the governor's introduced his budget, proposed budget. Now it's the Senate and House turn. Both the Senate and the House have bills that have been introduced to amend the governor's proposed budget. Senate Bill 104, introduced by Senator Louise Lucas, would raise salaries to the national average and calls for staggered raises for teachers and support staff, 3% for the 25-26 school year and 7% for the next year. This bill has unanimously passed the Senate's Education and Health Committee and has been already referred to Finance and Appropriations. There are two bills in the House, one 187, introduced by Delegate Nadarius Clark, which also seeks to ensure teachers and support staff are paid at or above the national average by the 28-29 year. And as mentioned earlier today, Delegate A.C. Cordoza introduced a similar bill regarding raising teachers' pay to the national average, and that's House Bill 1152. Now, the General Assembly convened last week on January 11th for its 60-day session. So important General Assembly dates that need to be considered. One's not listed there is February 18th, when the Senate and House has to submit their version of the budget. And then they're going to go into negotiations between the Senate and House to present to the governor. March 9th, hopefully we'll have something, we don't know, scheduled adjournment of the General Assembly is planned for that date. If needed, they'll come back on April 7th for a reconvened session for consideration of the governor's amendments and/or vetoes. Now, for the next steps, the superintendent's proposed budget will be based on the information that's available at the time. There are currently the following planned budget meetings. In February, the superintendent plans to present the proposed budget. At the regular meeting in March, there will be a public hearing on the proposed budget, as well as school board discussion and budget approval. And on April 22nd, there's a joint school board and city council work session. Now, as you can see from the previous slide, there will not be a final state budget before the school is required to submit its budget to the city. Amendments to the school board approved budget may be necessary depending on the governor's final budget. And that concludes my report this evening. Do you have any questions? Thank you very much.
So now do we have any public comment?
I have two speakers. The first is Erica Schwalik of 22 Pickens Drive.
Before you, I need to read this, so just give me a second. Public comment statement. The Poquoson School Board welcomes public comment during regular meetings. School board members do not respond to public comment during a meeting. All comments should address a matter related to Poquoson public schools. The school board will not hear public comment that involves an individual student-related matter, the disclosure of which would violate applicable confidentiality requirements. The school board expects that each speaker will be courteous, modeling for our students how one can respectfully disagree with others' views. Speakers will address their comments to the entire school board and not to one individual school board member, nor to the superintendent, a staff member, or the audience. Speakers are encouraged not to engage in personal attacks. Speakers will present their comments from the podium. To follow school board policy, time allotted to speakers will be held to 3 minutes.
Thank you. On the 2nd of November, I was told that my son had been witnessed being abused by his special education teacher. I won't go too much further into that. I have some problems with the protocol and how it was handled. The next day I went to the police department and filed a police report. The SRO took my statement. It had been some 18 hours later and the SRO had not even been informed that this had happened at the school at the time he took my statement. To date, CPS has not been called. And I know this because my son receives social services from York County and has a case manager. I am concerned with the fact that the nature of what happened is so egregious and it's not being taken seriously by anybody in the school. And I feel this way because the teacher who did this is now teaching at another school in our district and teaching around students who are similarly situated to my son. These are students who cannot speak up for themselves, who can't relay what has happened to them, who may receive toileting services like my son does. I'm a little concerned with how the schools handle things like toileting services because when this incident happened, that was when this happened. I would feel that it would be in the best interest for the safety of the teacher and the student that there are 2 adults present while toileting services are happening. And this would be for all students, not just special education students, you know, kids that have accidents. And then I would love to see a little bit more transparency in how the school decides to investigate these types of incidences. I don't feel that it is in the best interest of anybody that's involved that the school is allowed to fully investigate. I think that when stuff of this nature occurs, it should be immediately provided to our police department to handle. They are the ones who are best equipped to investigate these services or, you know, what happens. Our teachers are most likely not. And I think that was all that I had to say.
Next, I have Kristen Call of 13 Baby.
Good evening. I've come to speak to you today about trust. That's where we left off at the last meeting regarding social emotional learning, that you have, as a board had decided to implicitly trust our teachers with caring school communities because they could find anything they wanted off the internet. The board stated that if we had an issue with any of the materials, to reach out and ask the teachers what our kids were learning during the morning meeting. Well, I did that. I asked to have a conversation with my child's kindergarten teacher, whom I greatly esteem. Instead of getting that call, I received a call from Ms. Kaysen stating I would not receive a conversation because you, the board, had decided that it was up to the schools. I'm asking that I asked that my child's education be explained to me, and it was refused. This violated my Virginia Code rights, section 1-240.1. My email from December 14th asking what my child was learning has since been ignored by Poquoson Primary. Completely ignored, because the principal seems to think that you gave them unanimous control. I need you guys to consider that when we're talking about trust. Additionally, I also emailed the chairwoman the same questions that our children are being surveyed on regarding caring school community, DESA, and the Virginia Department of Education social emotional learning. You all know this because you were all CC'd on it. I have yet to have a response to my email, which also shows the transparency and trust that parents are afforded. So again, this isn't about trusting the teachers. This is about trusting the appointed school board members, yourselves, and appropriately doing their due diligence and reviewing the concerns that parents are bringing to you. This is about a principal deciding that I, as a parent, would not be afforded rights to review materials that a public school is implementing. This is about trust, and it's about trust that you're breaking. Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda. Mike?
Request a motion to approve the consent agenda, which will include the following: approval of the financial reports, authorization to change appropriation and to accept and expend funds in accordance with the attached request, approval of personnel action, approval of minutes for December's regular meeting and work session, and approval to dispose of surplus property, details of all which are enclosed in the.
Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as written on the.
Second.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Ms. Firth, can we call a vote?
Mr. Ingram?
Aye.
Dr. Goodell?
Aye.
Mr. Childress?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. DeBose?
Aye.
Vice Chair Burbidge?
Aye.
Motion passes, vote is 6-0.
Okay. Other matters for consideration. The first item is a consideration of approval of the secondary program of studies for the 2024-2025 school year. I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
We can revisit the test. Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
So revisit the paying for the testing and require the testing instead of just, is that what we talked about?
Yeah, that would be a budgetary
At that
discussion.
time? Yeah.
Else? Mr. Ingram? Ms. Burke, can we call for a vote?
Mr. Ingram?
Aye.
Dr. Goodell?
Aye.
Mr. Childress?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. DeBose?
Aye.
Vice Chair Burbidge?
Aye.
Motion passes, vote is 6-0.
Item B, consideration of addition of a Poquoson, or of a provision for students at Poquoson Primary School and Poquoson Elementary School to carry a smartwatch. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we,
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve the consideration for provision for students at PPS and PES to carry a smartwatch in their backpack during school activities and school functions and hours. Because I think the motion is going to be the policy.
Second it.
Is there any discussion?
Just to follow on to what we discussed in the work session, that there probably needs to be a secondary discussion regarding the overall acceptable use policy in general, just to have it out there.
Is this in regards to across the school system or just the primary school?
I think it's probably across the school system.
Ms. Firth?
Mr. Ingram?
Aye.
Dr. Goodell?
Aye.
Mr. Childress?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. DeBose?
Aye.
Vice Chair Burbidge?
Aye.
Motion passes, vote is 6-0.
Item C is consideration of approval of proclamation for Black History Month. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Firth, a vote?
Mr. Ingram?
Aye.
Dr. Goodell?
Aye.
Mr. Childress?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. DeBose?
Aye.
Vice Chair Burbidge?
Aye.
Motion passes, vote is 6-0.
Item D is consideration of approval of proclamation for School Principals Appreciation Week. Motion?
Good.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Firth?
Mr. Ingram?
Aye.
Dr. Goodell?
Aye.
Mr. Childress?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. DeBose?
Aye.
Vice Chair Burbidge?
Aye.
Motion passes, vote is 6-0.
Are there any communications and/or other matters by school board and/or superintendent? Patrick?
I will be starting off with the primary school report. Since the return from the holiday break, students and staff have hit the ground running. We have returned to a quick but thorough review of the school-wide and classroom expectations with our teachers and with Ms. Kaysen in a student assembly. We also discussed the extension of our Golden Bull incentive program to dismissal time. Now students can also earn rewards as a bus group or as the car rider team. We're in the midst of our mid-year literacy and end-of-quarter/mid-year math assessments, and we will use the data from these assessments to inform our instruction, reconfigure small groups for instruction as needed, and target struggling students with further interventions. An additional focus for the remainder of this school year is targeting chronic absenteeism. Please make sure to have your student at school on time and ready to learn. We ask that you take the school calendar into consideration when scheduling vacations or trips. Please do not, however, send a sick child to school. Sending a sick student to school will spread germs to others and possibly extend your own student's illness, which means even more days out. We are gearing up for next year already with some open houses for new IPOP and rising kindergarten students. Please check social media in the coming days for information and spread the word to those you know who have children at this age. IPOP registration will open soon, and an open house will be January 25th. Kindergarten registration opens February 5th and will hold an information night on February 15th. In the month of February, we will also have some special events with our second graders to benefit the American Heart Association, to include the Jump Rope Challenge and our second grade senior social. Thank you to our PBS PTO who sponsored a box tops contest before our winter break and then celebrated with the first grade team who won with a hot chocolate party last week. Now for the elementary school report. Poquoson Elementary School wishes everyone a happy new year. We spent the first few days back to school after winter break reviewing some school and classroom expectations. Classroom teachers reviewed routines and procedures, and all our grade levels participated in behavior expectation assemblies with Ms. Cusco and Ms. Lamb. Our library/media specialist, Ms. Wyndham, has started our Battle of the Books team, and students are enjoying their reading assignments and discussions. We will soon begin tryouts for the Great Computer Challenge. Look for information to come out soon. Poquoson Elementary students are being given the opportunity to design this year's yearbook cover. We will have a design for the outside cover, and then grade levels winners' drawings will be featured at the start of the grade level section of the yearbook. All students have the chance to add a drawing to the yearbook as well. During lunches, students will be able to draw or sketch a design that will be added in with candid photos throughout the yearbook. We're excited to see what our students design. Our teachers are preparing students for mid-year assessments, and our teachers will use student performance to adjust instructional plans moving forward. Our fifth grade teachers will be meeting with the middle school counselors to begin preparation for sixth grade scheduling and transition. Parents will be receiving information regarding the rising sixth grade parent information sessions soon. For the middle school, PMS had 16 students selected for district band. Auditions were held on Saturday, January 6th. There were 25 middle schools that participated in district band auditions, and Poquoson had the most students selected out of all 25 schools. These students will represent Poquoson at the district band event the first week in February. Congratulations is extended to these students and Mr. Lawson for their hard work and determination. The PMS Spelling Bee took place after school today, and we would like to send our congrats to the third place finisher, Breslin Crockett, the second place finisher, Amelia Agrensoni, and our first place finisher, Bryce Goodall. And Bryce will be competing in the regional spelling bee, so we wish him all good luck. Teams have been selected, and students in all three grade levels are hard at work in preparation for Battle of the Classes. This is an annual event that all students in the school can participate in to help their grade level accumulate points. The week of February 12th will consist of Spirit Days, Coin Wars, lunchtime games, and a culminating competition on February 15th, where one grade level will be named the winner based on total points earned. We're excited to share that Mr. Dixon has joined the PMS team as our school security officer. And congratulations is extended to our January Golden Bull Students of the Month, Bryce Lotta of 6th grade, Trevelyn Garrett of 7th grade, and Tristan Thomas of 8th grade. Finally, for the high school report, the sports teams are finding great success in seasons as they begin to come to a close. The wrestling team found themselves taking first place in duels. Tomorrow is the final regular season swim meet for the swim team, so we wish them the best of luck. The band had 9 competitors achieve in making Virginia Honor Band. Thursday, there is a show choir performance, and drama is beginning casting for the Mamma Mia play. And also keep an eye out for the one-act plays, as dates will be announced soon. I believe they were just announced very recently. Several science classes participated in a whale watching trip. They were unsuccessful in finding any whales, however, they did see several dolphins. Mr. Deshawn's class has recently been building robots. This has given the students the opportunity and idea to possibly pursue an interest in programming, engineering, and other STEM-related fields. The construction on the greenhouses will begin shortly. These greenhouses will be fully functional and present students with several learning opportunities. The next SAT is March 9th. For anyone interested in taking this SAT, I recommend you do so soon to avoid the late fee. This will be the first digital SAT, so make sure your students follow all instructions provided by College Board in order to prepare for the test. And as always, please keep up with the Parents Squared to keep up with all information. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Fink being Senior of the Month, to thank Ms. Forrester and the Economic and Personal Finance Department for the Blue Star distinction. I want to thank the band boosters for presenting the picture and the picture frame to us. And I want to thank the Poquoson Art League for the donation that they gave each of the schools.
Well,
Quickly, yeah, the Student of the Month, Oliver, congratulations on that. Thanks for the PHS band, for all the work you do with those students. It's always great to hear and see the parades and the work they do outside, just the practice and the Poquoson Art League. And the committees that worked on the program of studies, those are really important to have options. Or students when they get into middle school and high school start to think about their careers, and it's important for them to have ideas to explore and courses to explore. I don't know, my son takes forensics. I don't know about he wanted to spell and bee. I don't know, my wife made him do it, so he wasn't too happy about it. But no, it's great. I think we offer a lot for our students, and it's a testament to the teachers and administrators.
Mr. Childress?
Thank you for the wonderful updates, Thatcher. Congratulations to Senior Month Oliver, the PHS band boosters. Thank you for the portrait. Poquoson Art League, thank you for your continued support. Thank you to the K-5 Literacy Core Committee going through and working through to find what we need in our program, so that's great. I was glad to see great turnout for the SEAC SAC programs, and congratulations to the Poquoson sport teams, Poquoson band, the athletic programs that we have, and all the spelling bee winners.
Thatcher, thank you for the updates, and again, congratulations to Oliver, our Senior of the Month. Thank you to the band boosters. The photo is beautiful, and the band uniforms look great. I've seen them out around the community, and happy that the school division was able to provide that funding. I think that's very important. Thank you to the Art League for your contributions to all 4 schools. I know they will be put to very good use, and also a thank you to all the counselor teams and all of the teams at the schools for the hard work on the program of studies. I found that of personal interest with a current 6th grader as my oldest, so it was very relevant, and I can't imagine the time that goes into building such a thing, but very useful, very necessary. And also to the Literacy Committee, I'll look forward to looking a little bit more at that curriculum, because I think that's going to be awesome.
Mr. DeBose?
It's harder and harder to do this because y'all all, take care of everything. Obviously echo everybody's comments. I do want to mention a good thanks to the school board for doing what they did for the band. I remember my time in band where we were slinging boxes of fruit to turn around and get our first set of uniforms that replaced the little frilly ones. So that was a good move. So appreciate that for the school board in general, and again, echo everybody's comments. Thank you.
I'd like to again congratulate Mr. Fink as Student of the Month. Thank you to the Poquoson Art League for your contributions to our art programs. Art is a very important thing for kids, especially primary, elementary, middle school, and high school. It's sometimes it gets overlooked. I'd like to encourage the 2 speakers who came and spoke. Their comments are important to the school board. I'd also like to encourage folks to come out and support our winter sports. I had the privilege last week of going to go see the JV and varsity boys basketball team. I'm hoping to catch the women's team this week. It's a lot of fun. I highly encourage you to come out and support our teams. Thank you.
As Mr. DeBose says, it's hard to be down here at this end. Everything's been said, so I ditto everything that you've heard, but I would also like to send a big thank you out to our staff. As you know, we're getting ready to finish first semester, and it's the big push now to make sure our kiddos learn everything they need to learn between now and the time they sit for state exams later this year. So this is the time we really kick it into high gear, and it's an important stretch between now and testing. So I want to thank them and applaud them for the hard work that they do. Every single person on our 306 member staff is doing incredible work, and I just want to thank them and appreciate all the hard work they do.
Is there any other material for board to review tonight?
No, sir.
Adjourns our meeting.